Liam Morrison wore the shirt under his suit jacket during his appeals court appearance today. It reads, quote, "There are only two genders."
All the backlash just really made me, just really do a deep dive, like do a soul search. And after all that, I still couldn't find a care.
Well, it's your own damn fault. You're so damn fat.
A Massachusetts kid's free speech rights are under attack, a right-wing TikTok troll gets fired, and a TikToker sings about being fat? All this and so much more is coming up on today's episode of Brad vs. Everyone, my daily series where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet and across our politics from a center-right, independent perspective. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and sticking around. We're building a really great community here. And if you're a returning viewer, you already know what I'm going to say. Don't forget to hit that like button and do comment with your thoughts. I do read the comments and I pick a few to respond to in every episode. Now, without further ado, we've got to talk about a crazy culture wars story that intersects with freedom of speech in America, because a federal appeals court has just ruled against a Massachusetts middle schooler who was sent home from school for wearing a "there are only two genders" t-shirt. And his case is setting up a huge free speech showdown. So the First Circuit Court of Appeals just ruled on this case, and that's the level just below the Supreme Court. And to get everybody up to speed, here's some coverage from CBS Boston from before this case was heard at the appeals court level.
From Middleborough is back in court,
appealing a decision that his school principal had the right to make him change his shirt. Liam Morrison wore the shirt under his suit jacket during his appeals court appearance today. It reads, quote, "There are only two genders." Lawyers for Morrison say last March, the principal of Nichols Middle School violated his First Amendment rights when he ordered him to change. At the time, teachers argued the shirt violated the hate speech clause of the dress code.
The school had a teaching moment. This should have been a lesson in how do we regard each other's views, how do we have a conversation about it. What we don't want to teach our future leaders, politicians, judges, that the answer to speech you don't like is censorship.
The Middleborough School Committee's lawyer argued that teachers wanted to protect the mental health of LGBTQ students.
Now let's hear from this kid directly, because he's spoken out about his case and really made his case publicly about why he should be allowed to do this.
I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions.
So he battled this decision in court, claiming it violated his First Amendment rights, and the school district defended their decision, saying that they're allowed to restrict speech and conduct in school as part of their necessary responsibility to maintain a functioning educational environment. The kid lost at the federal court level, and then it went to the appeals court, and somehow he's lost again. As Fox News reports, the First Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed a Massachusetts middle school's decision to ask a student to remove his "there are only two genders" t-shirt last year. The federal appeals court issued its decision on Sunday, denying 8th grader Liam Morrison's appeal that Nichols Middle School in Middleborough violated his First Amendment rights in March 2023. The ruling upheld an earlier district court decision. His lawyers argue that this is not about a t-shirt, it's about free speech. This case isn't about t-shirts, it's about a public school telling a middle schooler that he isn't allowed to express a view that differs from their own. David Cortman, Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel and VP of U.S. Litigation, said in a statement following the federal court's decision. Cortman said that the legal system is built on the truth that the government cannot silence any speaker just because it disapproves of what they say. And he pointed out the double standard that this school has when it comes to which political messages are allowed and which ones are restricted. restricted. The school actively promotes its view about gender through posters and pride events, and it encourages students to wear clothing with messages on the same topic, so long as that clothing expresses the school's preferred views on the subject. They're now looking to appeal this appeals court decision, and the only place they could do that would be at the United States Supreme Court. Personally, I hope the Supreme Court takes this case, although I'm worried they might not, and I hope that they overturn it and vindicate this kid's First Amendment rights. There's clear Supreme Court precedent that kids do have First Amendment rights in school, although they're not unlimited. Schools are allowed to ensure that education isn't disrupted, but there wasn't actually any evidence in this case that it caused a material disruption. They just didn't like the message and decided to crack down on it. Shocker, guys. Remember, this was Massachusetts. And you guys know that I don't really accept the concept of hate speech as a category, but even if one does believe that hate speech is a thing, it's kind of wild that in 2023, 2024, there are only two genders is now hate speech. If you'd gone back 10 years and told me people would be arguing that, I would have accused you of fear-mongering and alarmism. Now, I want to be clear because there's some nuances to this. The school could have, under their dress code, banned words on t-shirts or banned any political message from being on your clothes as part of their dress code, but they didn't do that. In fact, they explicitly admit that they would allow students to wear a t-shirt that said there are unlimited genders. And that double standard does not square with the First Amendment. It's definitionally a content-based restriction on speech, which is the kind of thing that is a massive red flag when it comes to First Amendment cases. Now, I want to discuss this argument that they're protecting the other students' rights. I reject this entirely because students don't have a right to not be around ideas or words that they might find offensive. That's not a real right. That doesn't exist. It's not the case in the real world, which schools are supposed to be preparing students for, and it's never really the case in a learning environment. Students do have a right to be free from harassment, but ideas aren't harassment. Harassment has to be targeted at a specific individual. So for example, say that this kid had a transgender girl identifying classmate named Sarah. They probably could stop him from wearing a t-shirt saying, Sarah is actually a boy, right? That would probably be targeted harassment and they could restrict that as harassment. But even if it might hurt Sarah's feelings, he has a right to say there are only two genders or you can't change your sex. The same way that Sarah would have the right to say there are a million genders or that you can change your sex, even if it deeply offends and hurts his feelings and violates his religious precepts or whatever. Ultimately, my big concern about this case and the many others like it is the message that we're sending to young people. America is a diverse and pluralistic society, and we all have to get along with each other even though we have widely different beliefs and values, and some people believe things that are totally opposite of what we believe, but we're supposed to be neighbors and compatriots and share this big, beautiful country. That requires a degree of tolerance. Tolerance for people with very different views. Tolerance for the right to have a different opinion. Agreeing to disagree. These basic American principles. But instead, our education system and now our legal system is telling these students that they have a right to be free from ever being around ideas or words they don't agree with. That's not what the real world is like. So on one hand, they're just setting them up for failure. And on the other hand, they're giving them illiberal expectations that they may well then try to impose on the real world when they grow up. In fact, I think that's some of what we're seeing now with the countless attacks on free speech across different aspects of American life. We should be teaching these students how to respectfully engage with each other when they have different opinions, how to agree to disagree, how to acknowledge that other people come from different places and have different backgrounds, and that we can all get along and respect each other's right to have an opinion even when we disagree. But instead, these schools are sending the opposite message, that the appropriate response to ideas you disagree with is censorship. And that's far more concerning to me than the outcome of any particular case. But what do you guys think? What do you think about this case? Let me know in the comments, and let me know if you think there are only two genders is hate speech. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Up next, a right-wing TikTok and Twitter troll just got fired from her job, and I'm struggling to feel any sympathy for this woman. So this young woman named Lily is an aspiring TikTok influencer of sorts, of the socially conservative online type, it seems. Well, this week she decided to post a engagement bait troll video, casually dropping the N-word among some other offensive statements about immigrants and other people. Let's take a listen, and apologies in advance for all the bleeps. And the word that's next to broke, for context, will be the N-word, but I will have to bleep it.
Okay, this time I have a beef with the male community. I give my criticisms to all because we are all about equity and inclusion here, right? So I'm sick and tired of all girls getting blamed, or like guys, certain guys, thinking that all girls are gold diggers. I don't know if it's because you get your information from those street interviews in like Miami at 3 a.m. outside of a nightclub. You're getting the opinion of some dumb and immigrants fresh off the boat looking for a green card. Yes, they are probably gold diggers, but that's the exception. I'm the rule. Everybody I know who's married right now, they're married to broke ass and they don't care. We don't give a money. I couldn't care less about your money, okay? My type is broke mechanics and surfer hippie dudes who just want to live in a shack and surf and have babies.
Well, doesn't she seem lovely and very humble? So it will shock you guys to learn that a white conservative girl casually dropping the N-word and suggesting that immigrants are gold diggers didn't go over very well with TikTok. They found out her full name, they found out her LinkedIn, they found out where she worked, and they started campaigning to get her fired from her job. She had apparently recently started working at an elderly care company. Well, the outrage mob did get what they wanted, and she was fired by the company, which released a public statement. We at ROFE of the Carolinas want to address a recent incident that has caused concern and upset among our stakeholders. A newly hired employee made inflammatory remarks on social media that do not align with the values and beliefs of our company. We want to make it clear that these sentiments are not representative of our organization, and we do not condone or support such behavior. As soon as we were made aware of the situation, we took immediate action to pull the employee from her assignment, which is not directly with any client of ours, and the employee in question is no longer with our company. We are owned and operated by African American, female, and immigrant-owned businesses and handled this situation as quickly as we could. We want to assure you that we are committed to fostering a diverse, inclusive, and respectful work environment where all individuals are valued and respected. I won't read the rest of it, but you get the idea. They cut ties with her and said she doesn't represent us, and we apologize for the confusion. Thankfully, it seems like this young woman has learned a lesson and seen the error of her ways, come to regret her trolling, and grown and moved on as a person. Just kidding. Here's a follow-up video she posted.
So a recent video of mine seems to have upset members of a certain community, and all the backlash just really made me, just really do a deep dive, like do a soul search. And after all that, I still couldn't find a care.
And she posted that video along a hashtag First Amendment, and with a quote about how the First Amendment is necessary to protect offensive speech. She continued this trolling response on Twitter. "Oh no, I just got fired," she tweeted on June 10th, #mob. On June 11th, she tweeted, "Thanks, Black community, for helping to launch my new career in conservative media. You all played your role well, like the puppets you are. Heart emoji." So I have some thoughts on this controversy and this interesting series of events, shall we call it. First, this doesn't really have anything to do with the First Amendment. The First Amendment only applies to the government, and she's not being arrested or prosecuted or put in jail or fined or taxed or any form of state sanction for her speech. Hate speech is protected under the First Amendment, including the right to use slurs, and so if she was facing that kind of consequences, I would defend her right to say it, even though I think what she said is gross. But she's not. And it is frustrating. Sometimes you'll see this. People will say something really upsetting, and then when people get upset, say First Amendment. Okay, well, First Amendment is your right to say it without being locked up. It doesn't stop other people from criticizing you or wanting you to be punished for it in other social ways. Now, there is still a cultural value of free speech and what we criticize when we talk about cancel culture, which is that regardless of the official First Amendment, folks like me want America to have a culture of free speech where people aren't just fired for having opinions that some people disagree with, or canceled because of old, outdated things that they said that are now offensive from years ago, even though they've grown and moved on. When I criticize cancel culture, I'm talking about stupid stuff like trying to stop Kevin Hart from hosting an awards ceremony because decades ago he used the F slur to refer to gay people. Even though he has nothing against gay people, he's completely come around on that, and he would never use the word the way he used it today. That's cancel culture. That's dumb. In the same way, trying to cancel somebody or get them fired for expressing a mainstream political opinion is cancel culture. But if a black-owned company doesn't want to employ a white girl who casually throws around the N-word, is that cancel culture? I don't really think so. Guys, I really don't. And regardless, I just have a really hard time feeling any sympathy for her because she played stupid games and won stupid prizes. She wasn't earnestly expressing a political opinion that's maybe edgy, but it's what she believes and she's speaking her mind. No, she was being deliberately offensive, trying to hurt people's feelings for clicks and views and attention. And it worked. You got the attention you ordered, babe, and it led to consequences. I'm sorry, it did. But I don't really think that's cancel culture. We've always agreed that some people, in some contexts, it's appropriate to cancel. Harvey Weinstein, for example, was canceled, and rightly so. But a whole lot of people have been fired or faced online mobs for expressing mainstream opinions or for things that aren't even controversial or offensive outside of woke Twitter, or because people are digging up old videos from a long time ago where they did something somewhat offensive and trying to ruin their lives over a youthful mistake and not accepting apologies or growth or showing anyone any grace. All that is cancel culture. But simply letting an employee go who engages in vulgar and gross public content that's bringing your company consequences and into disrepute, I don't think that qualifies as cancel culture. I think that's just consequences for your actions. It's hard though, because it is hard to draw a line, right? Critics of cancel culture like myself have always acknowledged that there's a line at which some people do need to be fired or let go. If you're working at a Jewish community center and you're posting publicly on Facebook how Adolf Hitler was right, well, you have a First Amendment right to say a batshit crazy thing like that, and you shouldn't be put in jail for it, but they also should fire you. But somebody who said there are two genders, a mainstream opinion that is maybe offensive to some people, shouldn't be hounded out of their job for it. Or somebody who 15 years ago opposed gay marriage or said the F slur about gay people or something, but, has grown as an adult and it wouldn't really say that now, should not be drummed out of polite society for having once committed a wrong thing. We do have to draw a line somewhere. And so am I being inconsistent? Am I a hypocrite? I don't know, but it's not all black and white. There always is this gray area. But for me, this chick is not in the gray area. She around and she found out. And I just have no sympathy for her. And I'm already seeing some fringe types in right-wing media rally around her as if she's some kind of icon or champion. And to me, that's a great sign of what reverse polarization looks like. It's this toxic phenomenon where instead of believing what you believe, you just start to hate the other side so much that whatever the opposite of them is what you now believe and support. So just because woke leftists really hate this girl, you now have to defend her even though her actions were grotesque. It's an irrational, overriding instinct that infects people's minds. It's something to be resisted, not indulged in. But everyone's like, oh, she's edgy and cool. Oh my God. No, she's not. She's a troll. I've looked at her other videos. I've never seen her say anything particularly articulate or intelligent or insightful. You don't have to embrace terrible people just to own the libs. You just don't. That's just my take on all this. Am I being a hypocrite? Honestly, let me know. And now, it's time for Brad vs. TikTok, my daily series where I take on the craziest ideas from across the Clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slugs.
If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and stick around, and hit that like button if you get a kick out of this video as we go along. And now, we'll listen to a TikTok singer's interesting song about how it's not actually people's fault if they're overweight.
Well, it's your own damn fault. You're so damn fat. It's just like when your grandpappy's lungs turn black. That was his fault too. The doctor told him what to do. He smoked Camels. Guess he bought the wrong pack. It ain't like a team of evil scientists through rigorous testing created the most abominable snacks. Grinding critters and chemicals up in a factory. Now your hand is stuck inside of the sack. Well, it's your own damn fault. You're so damn fat. Coca-Cola just walked in with the results. They did a self-investigation like a Florida sheriff's station, so you know they won't be found at fault. Diabetes, help us Jesus, if you're fit, willing and able. For a smooth 10 grand, they'll clamp your guts with a band, and that's all cool if you don't die on the table. Glucose, monosaccharides, diastatic malts, high fructose corn syrup, it's all your fault. Well, it's your own damn fault. You're so damn fat. Shame, shame, shame. Oh, the food on the shelf was engineered for your health, so you're gonna have to take the blame.
So there's a lot to unpack here. First, LOL at the people in the comments who were like yelling at him, "It's not our fault, blah, 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 blah." It's like, the point clearly went over your head. It's obviously meant tongue-in-cheek, and he's actually suggesting that it's not people's fault if they're fat. It's not their fault they're overweight. It's out of their control because of our messed up food industry and the scientific research that's been done to make many of our foods as processed and addictive and enticing as possible. And I will say this guy, I think, has a talent. He really does. I think he's clearly a somewhat gifted musician, and then he writes a lot of these songs that have some form of social or political commentary to them that are usually satirical, and they do make you think, and they are interesting, and I appreciate that in a TikTok feed that's so often filled with just like vapid or vain or artificial, superficial stuff. And I think there's a grain of truth in this song and in his argument, but I do kind of reject the premise. So let's unpack it. It is obviously true that a lot of our food in America has been engineered to be as addictive as possible, like the potato chips, right? They figured out the exact thing to make you keep wanting another one. We'd be lying if we said that that wasn't true, and we'd be fools to pretend that that doesn't make it harder for people to be healthy and to make healthy decisions. It absolutely does. At the same time, I reject his notion that it's beyond people's control, or that just because it's harder, they now really have no choice but to just be overweight and fat. I still don't think that's true. I mean, look at him. He is not overweight, even though the food all around him is engineered to be addictive, not engineered to be healthy, but he's able to do it. So is a huge swath of the country. It's definitely a lot harder when you have this perfectly engineered, delicious, and addictive food out there available for you. But it's still a choice. Human beings still have agency and willpower, especially when we're talking about adults. I mean, I'm tempted all the time to pig out and eat a ton of chips or eat half a carton of ice cream, and instead I just have, a moderate portion. I really enjoy drinking soda, but I almost never do it because I know it's not healthy. And I don't accept the notion that you'll often hear put forward by people that financial reasons basically force people to eat this unhealthy, processed, addictive food. Again, there's a grain of truth there, but there's still plenty of options. I'm telling you right now, I can go to my grocery store around the corner, the Meijer near me, and I can buy chicken breast, brown rice, broccoli, and a tikka masala sauce in a jar or something and make a healthy meal for 4 people for the same amount, or honestly probably less, than McDonald's or buying frozen pizzas. People do still have willpower. They still do have the ability to make choices and to shape their own way in life and shape their own outcomes. And the thing that I don't like about this kind of content on TikTok is that it really is telling young people that everything's beyond their control, when that's still not true. We should be re-emphasizing people's individualism and agency and making them feel empowered to make better decisions. Not telling them that it's all beyond their control, the system is totally rigged against you, you have really no options or opportunity to do better, so you might as well just give up and give in to it. That nihilistic message, even if there's a grain of truth in some of the things about it, isn't productive, and I think really leads a lot of young people to a toxic mentality that's not in their best interests, let alone society's. But that's just my take. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this song and of this topic more broadly. And don't forget to hit that like button. Now, before we wrap up today's show, I'll read a few of your comments from the last episode. One person says, I'd like to comment, but according to Sunny Hostin, I don't exist, so I guess I'll have to go type with my hooves and single horn. Yeah, this person must be a black Republican or black conservative who she said are unicorns and almost non-existent. And honestly, for y'all, I'm offended on your behalf. I can only imagine how you must feel to have some person who's not even black telling you don't exist. Another person said, I'm offended she called me a unicorn. Keep your pronouns to yourself. Oh my god, I wonder if that pronoun girl, jump scare warning.
Today I'm going to show you how to use rats, pronouns, and sentences.
I wonder if she's ever done one about unicorn pronouns. Another person says, yes, Brad, thank you. I act in theater. I'm not a big name Hollywood celebrity, but I have been around a lot of talented actors. They're fantastic at their craft, but they are no better than a nurse or a construction worker at political analysis. My sanitation guy is more thoughtful than anyone else I know in acting. Don't listen to us. We speak other people's words. Actors do actually just say other people's words. It's still a talent. It's still impressive. I could never do it. Don't get me wrong, but they're not necessarily like the boldest intellectual visionaries of our time. And look, I'm sure some actors are really smart and insightful. My only point is that they're no more inherently qualified to speak on politics than literally anyone else. Another person says, celebrities have as much right to voice their political opinions as you do. It's awfully arrogant of you to think that you have the right to voice their opinion and they don't. Well, to be clear, I never said they don't have the right to voice their opinion. I totally support free speech, including the free speech of woke celebrities. I said that people shouldn't listen to them. That's very different. And maybe this makes me arrogant, but I do think people should listen to me before they listen to a random celebrity speak about politics. I have a degree in politics and economics. I've made it my life's work, and I've studied and researched and written about and spoken about these topics for years. In almost all cases, they have not done the same. And look, when it comes to acting or entertainment or film or media, they are far more qualified to speak or opine than I am. I don't really think that makes me arrogant. Another person says, oh good, hopefully the increasing prices of fast food makes America less obese. Yeah, maybe we do need some more left-wing economic policies to make all the fast food more expensive. Maybe that's how we solve the obesity problem. No, guys, I don't actually think that's it because it makes everything more expensive, not just fast food. That's just one example. Another person said, while rewatching one of my favorite anime, I found myself thinking, put down the crack pipe, babe, as a villain rambled on about his beliefs. You're getting to me, Brad. Yes, I'm corrupting you all. I love that so much. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today and tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't yet. Don't forget to hit that like button and comment with your thoughts on today's episode before you head out. I do read the comments and I pick a few to respond to in every episode. And with that, we'll talk again tomorrow.